At the Terwillegar basement development, we're about halfway through this project. A whole whack of stuff has happened since the last video. And in case you haven't seen the last video, check that out before you watch this one. But anyway, let's not waste any time. Let's do a walkthrough and let's check it out. So what all has been completed? Framing, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, insulation, drywall, taping, priming, and now we're ready for ceiling texture. So we are about halfway through, maybe a little further than halfway through this basement development. But the first thing, let's check out this bathroom, right? And let's talk about plumbing, right? So plumbing, there is a lot that is involved with plumbing. So one of the first things is you're gonna have water lines because you need to get water to all your fixtures. You're gonna have your vanity, you're gonna have your toilet, you're gonna have your shower. Everything needs water. So anytime you develop your basement, there is no water lines running to your bathroom, generally speaking anyway. So we have to get that all here. When the plumber does the work, we have to verify the work is done right. We gotta verify, make sure that these PEX water lines are all strapped appropriately. We gotta make sure they're not all bundled up with the hot and cold together. We gotta make sure that when they're run through the 2x4 stud, they're at least halfway through the stud and they're not at the face of the stud. And also we have to make sure there's a protection plate in front, right? For example, we're gonna install this vanity here. We wanna make sure that when we screw through, we're not gonna hit one of those water lines, right? It's not gonna be a good situation, flooding the basement right at the final steps, right? So in this basement, clients opted for a shower pan. In your basement, you can do a bathtub, you can do a tiled shower, you can do whatever you want, right? So there's a lot of different options. Whenever you do a acrylic shower base or a bathtub, it is more cost effective than going with tile. And in this basement, what we have is a Duroc backer board. And what we'll do is we'll actually do a Curdy membrane over top. The client is going to use this bedroom as an office space. And anytime you guys are developing a space, it has to be clear whether or not it is a bedroom or an office. In this case, it is an office. So what does that mean? It means you don't have to have a window that meets egress code. Because it's an office, it's not a full-time, people aren't sleeping in there. That is the code as per Edmonton, Alberta. So this being an office, we decided with the clients to add a little bit more light, right? So we do have 5 pot lights in this office space. You can see them here. They're cut out here waiting for some lighting. And you might think 5 pot lights in that space. More light is always better than less, right? So we have 5 pot lights in here, but there's gonna be a dimmer switch. So it's always better to have more light than too little because you can always just dim the light down. If you only had 1 pot light in here, there's nothing you can do. You're gonna be pissed off. You're gonna be in a dark dungeon. Nobody wants to work in there, right? So this is the office space. As far as electrical is concerned, when we're doing electrical, we are making sure our electricians are lasering in the wires. We're making sure there's a little service loop on here that there's quite a bit extra wire in the event that we have to pull these through, or in the future they're switching out the switches and they got to cut these wires. So that's another thing that we're looking for. We're making sure all the protector plates are used. We're making sure they're using high quality wire, receptacle boxes and all that. On an exterior wall like this, which is a frost wall, we make sure they're using a self-sealing receptacle box, which is like a NewTek box, which ties into the vapor barrier. So there's a lot more that we look through when we're going through the electrical. We're using lasers, we're making sure everything's absolutely perfect, lined up, and immaculate, right? So we have amazing electricians, to say the least. So coming out through here, this is gonna be the rec room, and not a massive rec room, and I'll show you a little bit why later. But when you're looking at a rec room and when you're adding to any bedroom, you wanna make sure that you have cold air returns brought down to the floor, something that we always do with every single one of our basement developments. This was the best spot for the cold air return, and the reason why we have cold air returns in every single room is it's going to allow for better circulation. What I mean by that We're in Edmonton. It gets down to -30. So what you want to do is you want to bring the heat to the floor. The best way to do that is to have a cold air return fairly on the opposite side of the window. And then what happens, I'll show you what happens here. This cold air, basically it comes off this window, it drops down, and it hits the floor. Now, the movement is going to be created by this hot air coming out of this vent. It's going to mix, and it's going to actually push the cold air all the way through here. The hot air is going to fill the room and push that through. So think of it as the hot air is going to push all the cold air out of the room and then back up to the furnace. The furnace is going to get that extra air, and it's going to be able to create combustion and kind of keep that cycle flowing through, right? So same thing with the office space. In any major large bedroom or rec area needs a cold air. So something that we always do. As well, we're making sure there's enough heat. So I know we have that blocked off because it is freaking hot down here, and we didn't want to cook out our painters and everybody else working down here. So you got to make sure you have the appropriate HVAC, right? So we touched on some plumbing, we touched on some electrical, we touched on some HVAC, and one of the most important aspects of what's behind the walls is insulation. So you want to make sure that your insulation is fully sealed and the vapor barrier is completely full of air, because air is the best insulator. You can see down here that we have this piece, which is called vapor barrier, which is behind the drywall. And then we have this black stuff, which is called acoustic sealant. Acoustic sealant, whatever you want to call it, it's a nightmare. If you get it on your hands, if you get it on your face, in your eyes or mouth is not recommended, so don't do that. Some of the other aspects of this basement development, we have the drywall all installed after inspections. The city comes in, does all the inspections. We've got all the drywall, we've got all the taping done, and then we also have the priming that was just done today, right? So that's where we're at with this basement development. And if you guys are looking for a basement development in the Edmonton area and you're looking for a high quality basement development, definitely give us a call. We are not the cheap basement developer, so if you're looking for that, there's a lot of those cheap ones out there. We do things to a super high quality. We're not the fastest out there, but I guarantee that every single project we do, clients are super happy with it. They brag to their friends and neighbors, and they always give us the thumbs up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're looking for renovation or basement development, reach out to Priority Builders. Take care.